It's time now for Duracell's Extra Mile, where we're going to pick players who we think went the extra mile, those players that bring a game-changing performance and unstoppable power. Wonder who we might go for.
Oh, it's a tricky one today.
It's a tricky one. One of the Swiss players, possibly not. Anyway, we'll come on to that with Alan Pardew shortly. But Thomas Tuchel and Jude Bellingham both spoke to ITV's Gabriel Clark after the win over Norway on Saturday. And we'll bring you little snippets of both interviews. I'm sure you've heard them, but if you haven't...
We made life very, very difficult for ourselves today. The result is fantastic. We're in the last four. It's amazing, but not happy with the performance.
In what sense?
In every sense. Because, again, the commitment is there, but we made life very, very difficult for us in the way we played, how we played. Sloppy, a lot of technical mistakes, not fast enough, not repetitive enough. We were lucky today.
Was that the occasion, getting to the players?
I don't know, it's just...
mentality thing?
No, nothing. Oh, it's no mentality.
Well, if you're not happy with the players...
This is pure mentality. How can you ask about mentality now? This is pure mentality. We need to play better.
The manager's actually not very happy. He said he was disappointed with the performance. There could have been more in many different ways.
Well, whatever.
Yeah, I think he obviously believes there could be more from the team.
Yeah, it's difficult out there. It's difficult. It's a tough shift. All the players are putting a very tough shift. So my thoughts and appreciation goes to the players who was out there who put in a great shift yet again.
A rift that's been talked about. I don't see that. I'm sure Alan Pardew doesn't. We'll chat to Alan in a moment. Later on, we're going to be chatting to Graham Stewart, who did an infamous interview back in the day with Sir Alex Ferguson that Mark Pugac referred to after those interviews went out. But Graham will tell us what it was like to be in Gabriel Clark's shoes the other day. But Alan Pardew joins us. Hi, Al.
Morning, fellas. How you doing?
Good. Thanks. This story, I mean, I don't think Jude Bellingham will give it a second thought. I don't think Thomas Tuchel will. I think I'm sure he'd be delighted that he stood up for his teammates in the moment. And if Gabriel had just said, you know, he wasn't happy with the performance, not in terms of effort, but maybe in terms of quality, then he would have
been a fairer question.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he just missed that little bit out, and that's why Jude Bellingham went down the road he went down. But it's not a big deal, this, is it?
Well, firstly, let's go back to the interviews. I think it is quite important to put it into some sort of context. Firstly, it was messy, the first interview with Thomas from Gabriel, you know, and he was obviously just trying to get across the point, like all coaches. You know, the technical side of it, we could have been so much better, which was true.
Yeah.
And when he was talking about repetitive stuff, he was talking about, you know, constant attacks where we was sort of having sporadic attacks and not building on it. So that was all fine, I thought. But the wording to Jude, I think you guys have just hit it, you know, the nail on the head there. That's exactly right. The wording was confrontational a little bit, sort of more or less saying the manager's criticised you when he hadn't. He hadn't criticised the mentality or the effort or anything like that. And Jude's reaction was what I would expect any player with his blood, you know, boiling under the heat that they were under to come and say, well, hold on a minute. I wasn't too bad. And, you know, from where I was sitting, we've won the game and it was all good. So that's how I see the whole scenario. If you're asking me how would that be affect the dressing room and how would you approach it? If I was Thomas, I'd have just creeped over to Jude at breakfast or something and said, Jude, that just got all lost, mate. You know, don't worry about it. I hope you don't read social media. You don't need to. You've been brilliant, blah, blah, blah. And I think that's really where it ends. But as you say, in the kind of media world that we live in and the constant podcasts and everything else that goes on, this is a story. So you can't ignore it. It's there.
It's very interesting because Andy's friend, Pablo in Buenos Aires, sent you a message saying, what's all this about, this big argument?
It gives them something.
Between Bellingham. So the Argentinian papers will be full of Bellingham falls out with manager. This, you know, it's going to be a big deal. You must have been there a million times when you've not been happy with a performance and you've got to go straight out. And you've probably not had a chance to talk to the players about it yet. And you're fuming and you just want to get in there and have a word with them, but you're having to do your media stuff. It can't be easy.
No, it's not easy. And, you know, when you've lost the game, you kind of go into a mode of, you know, being very clinical about what you're going to say. But actually, you're more vulnerable when you win because your confidence is high. You kind of, and you say stuff like, oh, we didn't really deserve to win today. This was no good. That was no good. So you go down a path where you think you're protected by the win, if that makes sense. but you're actually digging some holes there, and I've done that many times, and upset the dressing room a little bit with an overreaction about the performance. And the only way you can, as I say, kind of get your feelings back on track with the players is just say, look, okay, guys, in a team meeting, for example, look, maybe I overreacted after the game. I didn't really kind of mean it like that. You were brilliant, blah, blah, blah. So, but you have to address it because, as you say, like the Argentine, the media running with this story, of course they're going, oh, Europe will run with this story. It will be the story before the game. So, as I say, it's not something that you can ignore. But it's typical sort of British behaviour, isn't it? Where we kind of love to kick ourselves when we're winning and, give ourselves a tough time.
It's true. I was thinking about you, Alan, during the game. When you watch a match, do you watch it as a manager, England especially, as a manager or as an ex-player or just like a fan? Can you divorce the two? I mean, I'm quite interested to see how you are when you actually watch the game.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I don't like watching it in public, of course, unless I'm getting paid a great deal of money. That always helps. But if I'm not, then I want to be on my own and I want to focus. And because of when you become a coach and a manager, you've got a different mindset to when you're a player. So you're kind of analysing all the moments in the game and what's going on tactically and et cetera, et cetera. And so that's how I watch the game. I watch it as a manager. I'm looking for themes. I'm looking for not so much like a player having a poor performance. That's pretty evident to everybody. I'm looking at why we're not kind of tighter, why we're not kind of building on situations. And one thing that I thought was really weird about that game was the first goal we scored when it hits the cable. That I had in the TV coverage that didn't show up to me at all. I didn't notice that at all until after the game. That was quite bizarre.
Well, they're claiming it didn't, of course, FIFA.
It's Uri Geller, it was. He's claiming
it. It was Uri Geller's claimed it.
Don't start me on Uri Geller, because he claimed when I got promoted at Reading that it was going down to him. So, me and him have fallen out before.
Fantastic.
Got a bit of previous with Uri Geller.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I have.
Oh, dear. Let's talk about
Alan's house keys. He couldn't get in.
Yeah. when you've got a player playing as well as Jude Bellingham, like that sort of school captain, I mean, it must be a dream. You must have had players in the past you think just kind of wind them up and send them out there. I mean, he's just playing so sensationally well and getting us out of holes, isn't he?
He is. I remember at Newcastle in particular, Czech Tiote was just bless his heart because he's gone now from us, but he was having a season where literally he was unbelievable. No one could compete with him. A bit like how Bellingham is now in such a zone. And I think as a manager, you're kind of thinking, oh, I don't want to disturb him. I don't want to knock him out of this mode. So you're very kind of kid gloves, almost like the old piano gloves on, sort of just pushing him out there, as you say, not saying too much to him, not giving him too much information, not overloading him, just letting him go and be himself. And I think that's where Bellingham is. I mean, when you look at Argentina, Messi gets them out of situations with some incredible talent where he just spins and turns out and switches play or something. And Bellingham's doing it for us. It's a real meeting of the great Jedi Master and the young Jedi, this game.
Argentina have not been... normally we go into a game like this with real trepidation, but I think we've all watched them. We've seen how close they've come to going out against inferior opposition in many cases, and we think we can get at them.
I think in the last World Cup, they really built nicely, didn't they? They sort of was building to a crescendo, which they produced that performance in the final, which won them it. So they are a team that do that. I just feel that you're right. I don't think this is quite as strong as they were 4 years ago. I think they're definitely beatable. I mean, what concerns me, there's a couple of things I think are real positive for us. One, I think at set plays, we're going to cause them a lot of trouble. And hopefully Declan is up to speed and is fit and well, and his delivery goes up a notch. That could really help us. But I just got a horrible feeling that penalties haven't raised their ugly head yet, and they're due. And that is where I think jeopardy might be, hopefully with us.
I'll tell you what will suit England. It's indoors at Atlanta. The conditions
Yes.
were a big factor on Saturday night.
Yeah,
You could tell that.
they did look physically and mentally shot England at one point.
Even Haaland at the end, he looked cooked when they took him
Yeah.
off. I mean, it was unpleasant. Whereas here, we will be able to play our normal game, and I think that's good. So will they, of course. But I think, that favours England.
I think that's absolutely right. I mean, the problem you have when you're playing in that sort of heat is you're not thinking straight. You're boiling. Your head's on fire. Probably running around with a headache, which isn't easy. And you won't get that at the Lads. That's a magnificent stadium, by the way. I went to the MLS final there some years ago, and it really is a venue that is just incredible. And as you say, with the roof shut and the temperature controlled, definitely we can play a high tempo game, which Thomas has talked about. He wants to play a Premier League kind of performance, and we did see traits of that in the Croatia game. If we produce anything like that in that period just after half time against Croatia, we could definitely beat Argentina with a bit to spare.
There are real Italian 90 parallels as well, Alan. England weren't great up until the semi-final, and they suddenly put in this incredible performance. It was one of the best England performances I think I've ever seen. The Germany semi-final, Italia 90. So you can do it. You can, as a team, just switch up a gear. You can put together that perfect performance. We just hope Argentina or do that as well, don't do the same thing.
They're going to be very emotional. This means more than football to them.
That's right, and that is very clear. And well, let's get your thoughts on that. That we have got another gear, and that's what's frustrating Thomas Tuchel.
Yeah, I just want to go back to what Andy said about the history about this game. And I think they might carry a burden into this game. Sometimes you can be overhyped and over kind of reaching in terms of your mentality. So let's hope Argentina are in that mode. We don't really carry as much kind of feeling, I don't think, of what's been going on between the two countries, particularly over the Falklands. No. So I think we are a little bit freer for it. We've obviously had the sending off, and we won the penalty, and all the history of Maradona and everything. I mean, it's a really unbelievable game historically. And I think I looked it up the other day. We're head to head. We're exactly even. Exactly even. So whoever wins this will, be leading in the head to head too.
Just to go back to the Norway game, and when we equalised, there was a shot of the Norwegian coach. He was so angry, he grabbed a bottle of water and he flung it back at the dugout, and it hit one of the coaching staff on the ankle. And I was thinking...
He didn't go down, though, did he? He stayed on his feet.
Did anything like that ever happen to you?
Did you used to like a lot? Were you good at kicking the water bottles? How did you do a bit of that?
100%. Yeah, I was very dangerous. My staff knew just keep well away. I actually kicked one at West Ham, a water bottle, and it hit the opposition manager.
Oh no!
I can't remember who it was at the time, but luckily he didn't come and thump me. But you just sometimes this things get so irritating that you have to express and get it out of your system. Yeah.
You said it means more to the Argentina. Not that it means more, but they carry more baggage into it because of everything that happened. Christian Romero, I've seen a lot of as a Tottenham fan, has never got a red card for Argentina.
Isn't it,
he obviously feels he has a duty of care. So up against Premier League players, up against a lot of familiar players, maybe we'll see Premier League Christian come into the fore with
that would be good.
couple of 2-footers.
I mean, this World Cup, it's been magnificent, by the way. But, the yellow card, red card situation, they've definitely tampered it down, haven't they? And, we're not starting games with like 3 yellow cards quickly. And I don't expect this game to start like that. But, there will be, I'm sure, a moment in this game which could change the face of the game, where someone is going to be literally like, wishing that the referee doesn't go with, the red card. And I think that will happen. And let's hope it's an Argentinian player and not one of ours.
They're going to be trying to wind Jude Bellingham up. We say if his mum has another pep talk with him before the game, that'll be good. Don't get a card, keep your temper, don't be pulling faces, all the things she told him that,
that's what mums are
he
for.
did. That's right, exactly.
Right.
But just a reminder, because a bit like we saw with Simeone all those years ago, they're going to, they're going to get at him. They're going to try and get at him, wind him up, because they know that he can be wound up.
Yeah, but there's 1 or 2 Argentinians that will be doing the same. I mean, those dark arts, don't think that we're completely naive.
No.
You might think Argentina can, beat us at them, but, we're pretty cool with that. We're all right. We can hold our own.
Yeah. So I wonder what is the key from an England point of view? Everybody sort of feels like just trying to cut off the supply lines centrally, and if you can keep Messi quiet. I mean, how do you go about keeping Messi quiet? For 80% of the game, he's hardly involved, isn't he? And then suddenly he just comes alive and with these moments of magic.
Yeah, he was quite quiet the other night, and then they pushed him out on that right flank where he's probably played most of his football, and he was terrific for a little spell. I mean, he's just one of those players that you've got to get bodies around him. I mean, obviously he can skip past 2 or 3 of you, but you need those bodies there just in case you can stop him, and stopping him at source is the key. And I think us keeping possession, which we've not done really well, if I'm honest, I think is going to be very, very important. We can't keep turning the ball over. So keeping possession, keeping locked in. When I say locked in, I mean when we have an attack, when it comes out, we win that second ball, or we pick up the pieces, we read the situation. We haven't done that well. So we're having an attacks, and then the opposition gain possession and clear it or play their way out. And Argentina are good at that. So they're 2 areas I think that'll be really important. One, keep Messi off the game by keeping the ball, and secondly, to have bodies in and around him. And but we've had history with this before. We tried to do that with Maradona. Terry Fenwick missed a tackle. Butcher missed a tackle twice. Yeah. Come on, guys, bring them down if you need to.
Absolutely.
I couldn't get close enough. That was
even the hand of God. You only ever see the end of that move with the ball coming off and he Maradona with his hand. But if you watch before, he beats about 3 or 4 Englishmen to get into that position.
Yeah, he wasn't a bad player.
Oh no, he's pretty decent.
He's pretty tidy. Thank you, Alan. We'll catch up with you later in the week. All the best. Good to talk to you.
Yeah, have a good day, guys.
Alan Pardew there, former Newcastle and West Ham manager, with his thoughts on England versus Argentina. You can weigh in as well, 03717 223344. Maybe you've got a cunning plan. Maybe you know the way to be. I mean, certainly winding. I mean, they're not. It was interesting, wasn't it? Alan said about him pulling right. And Tim Vickery joined us last week, and he said they've never really replaced Angel Di Maria. And so what Messi has been doing is he knows they need someone in that role because they're not great from those positions. So he's been drifting wide for a lot of these games. So I'm sure we'll catch up with Tim before the game and get his take on it a little bit later on. But 03717 223344, talksport.com, text 81089, tweet to TSH and J. Maybe a little sidebar today. I was able to play a game I hadn't played for ages since he left Spurs, with the Harry Kane free kick game.
Oh, yeah.
We used to play, our little group, we'd play Harry into the wall or over the bar.
Yeah.
And we were like, what do you reckon? I'm going into the wall. What about you, over the bar? The fact he stands over a free kick how can a bloke be so good at penalties and so good at striking the ball, but be utterly terrible at free kicks? Just before he left, he scored. Actually, even wasn't direct from a free kick. It was played to him, but it was a very good goal. But he stinks the place out with free kicks. So it was nice to be able to play the Harry Kane free kick game when he lined one up the other day. And I actually went over the bar because I didn't think he'd get it. So I got my point, which was good.
That's
so
good.
There's any little games you
but at that point, did you notice the referee's foam? He sprayed so much foam, it was like
the ball was sitting on the foam.
Like a rugby team.
It
was.
How thick is his foam? Don't answer that. But
it was very thick.
Do get in touch to tell us about those little games maybe you play around players at your club. This one's coming from one of the listeners. Paul, I'm the manager of the cancer research shop. My assistant Doris accidentally sold my Come On England neon sign. Can I have it back, please? No, I'm sorry. Andy Jacobs is now the proud owner of the Come On England neon sign, which I picked up for him at the £5. Look at that. Marvellous.